everybody. Welcome back to the Slumber Party podcast. I am your hostess with the mostest, Amanda Jewson, sleep expert, CEO of Baby's Best Sleep, joined today with my BFF, operations manager of BBS, Liza Ramrine. Hi, Liza.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, Liza's making like peace signs, and it's reminding me of my 8-year-old daughter, where she does that literally every moment she can. She's puckering and doing this.
Yeah.
She's like, cool, mom. I'm like, who does that in your life? that it's not me. It's not coming from me.
Auntie Liza does that.
I think we figured it out. Nailed it. So these are sorry?
I'm the source of coolness for 8-year-olds.
I know you are. You are my kid's idol, though. You know that. They're like, yeah, you're fine.
Put all
but
the
like,
effort into being that.
Well, you did it all right. Like, if Winnie has a good outfit, she'll be like, hey, can you FaceTime Auntie Liza? And I'm like,
I love it.
Okay. I like your outfit.
Also think it's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And your mom. God, 14 hours of labor. I know. And then some people are going to be like, 14 hours. I wish it was 14 hours.
Yeah.
I want to introduce people to the concept of this episode because today we don't have a guest. And actually, like in the infancy of like thinking about bringing you onto this podcast, it was for this purpose that on the weeks that we don't have guests, which happen from time to time, and we've just been inundated with guests the last while, which has been really fun. But it'd be fun to actually talk about our experiences with parenting, babies, all of that stuff, things that are coming up for us. And so I put out the feelers on Instagram yesterday, and I was like, tell us what we should talk about. And someone wrote and sort of said, what do you wish you knew when you had a newborn? And I found that like a really, really good question. I was like, I feel like we can talk a lot about this.
I also like it that it's a question that somebody asked and we're not just volunteering information. So number one thing that I wish you knew is that you don't have to you should ask for that info and don't take it in unless you asked for it. Right?
I love that.
What is some advice?
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so conscious of, I think I've talked about this on this podcast before, where I'm not someone who likes to give advice ever because I hate it when I'm just like kind of talking about it and someone's like, did you do this? And I'm like, okay, thank you. But I just want to talk about it and vent about it. And I will ask, like, what do you like this morning?
Of course.
I was like, hey, my daughter is home today with a runny nose. And I don't want to get, I've made a commitment not to talk too much about my kids' personal life, but I had a question about like television on school days. And I was like, what do you do in your house? And so I will ask all the time, and I'm really open to feedback, but I'm resentful when I'm just kind of sharing something and someone feels the need to like teach me. I'm like, I'll ask.
Yes.
I'll ask.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The asking is the essential part of the advice giving for sure.
100%. So I actually feel like you should answer this question first, because I feel like I was in an advantage when I had my girls because so many friends had babies. I felt like I had been able to kind of like see everyone's like parenting hacks and styles, and I picked some from here and some from here, and I picked what I liked, right? I'm not to say that I felt fully prepared, but I'm curious because you were one of the first people I know to have babies in my circle of friends. And so like, what do you,
I also had the added benefit of having had a third child much later, like when my middle child was 6. So I feel like I also got to learn from my first 2 parenting adventures. And now I am quite the expert. I mean, ask me all the advice.
I still, joke. But I was speaking to a client who spoke to you on a discovery call. So I am like, my schedule is like bananas, and Liza can confirm this because she'll be like, "Hey, I went to call you, and then I looked at your calendar, and then I just knew that I shouldn't do that." But so Liza does my discovery calls for clients who want to work with me, and one of my clients had actually said like, "I just love that Liza could connect so deeply to my newborn experience." She said that. She's like, "Oh, she just totally got it." So I think
Yeah.
like I think that you are more of an expert than you think you are.
Well, I mean, it's just like you, right? Like you're in the industry long enough, and I was like the
Mhm.
mom gatherer. Like I love to have mom meetups and friend groups and things like that. So, and I love like baby information. I don't know, call me crazy. I'm the auntie you want to have around, I guess. I give myself that title. But some of the advice, honestly, it's just so simple. So it's almost like just no duh. But I feel like we just need to hear the simplest advice sometimes. And for me, like when
Yep.
you brought that question up to me earlier today, I was like, yeah, I think it's just like you, Lisa, can in fact chill the fuck out. You actually can. I know you say you can't. I can't. When my husband be like, just chill, just a minute. Just like, let's just breathe. Like, I can't breathe. Like, you actually can. Like, here's how you do it. Like, you actually expand from the belly, and then you take a real deep breath.
Yeah.
And then you have to give yourself like 30 seconds in the
Mhm.
worst part of your day.
Mhm.
If you just give yourself the care that you would give somebody else, if you're caring for your
Mhm.
child, you need to give them, a few minutes to calm down, assess the situation. Like, do that for yourself and assess. Like,
Mhm.
you will quickly know that you're exhausted or that you hate that pile of laundry. And then you go lay down
Mhm.
and turn the world off and let the other person who is there, who promised to take care of you in the time of need, do
Mhm.
that for you.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like I just only understood that concept with my third. Like, I left the laundry, I left all the piled up dishes. Like, I stepped over the broom, as my
Mhm.
grandmother told me so long ago. I finally understood that. She's like, I would step over a pile of dirt and a broom on the ground to go lay down, like to take care of myself. And that's my lesson.
That's some deep advice from your grandmother. I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love your grandmother also.
Right.
When I was a young person, I do not do this now, but Lisa Lisa got married at a time where I was sowing my wild oats, as they say. One second. Okay, we're back. When it was the wedding, your grandmother, like I think I was like, my husband was like, we were moving to Australia. My husband was in Australia. I was like the only one without a date, and so she like sought me out, and she's like, you do vodka shots with me, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I like, what am I supposed to do? Like, not do them? Like I was
I mean,
what
you heard
20.
you do vodka shots with me, but she does not speak any English, so she must have just screamed vodka at you.
She literally took well, there was a bottle of vodka in the middle of the table. She just started pouring shots for me and her, and then was like, nods
She
at me.
felt your vodka energy.
I know. And then I was like, okay, this woman's like 75. I'm 24, 25. What am I doing? Okay, I guess I'm also doing vodka shots with this 75-year-old woman. And then I had to see myself out. That's what I remember from
Yes.
your mom or your grandma.
That's granny.
Anyway, it's whole granny. The tale as old as time.
Classic granny. No, but seriously, like, I'm not kidding. Like, that is my grandmother. She's just like, it's time to party. Everybody turn it up.
I was thinking like, I have like so many thoughts about like that newborn stage, and I think that there is a lot of pressure to perform one's motherhood and perform to everybody how much you care for your child.
Yeah.
And in the last little while, I've had a lot of like deep thoughts to myself as I deal with like clients and the questions that come to me, that I think the worst thing that we've ever said to new moms or parents, not even new moms, like parents in general, is like, hey, your bond and attachment to your child is always at risk of like being severed.
Mm.
And I think with that worry in mind, it's every parent's worst fear that their child won't love them or that they're not caring for their needs. And therefore there are all of these like outside, I mean, experts being like, well, if you don't have the baby on you at all time, you're not attached to them. If you're not breastfeeding, you're not attached to them. If you're not co-sleeping, you're not attached to them. And it just simplifies something so like natural and complex and actually easy to connect with your child. And I wish
Mm-hmm.
someone had told me how effortless it is, right? Like, and
Sure.
where it's ironic because the parents who worry the most about it are actually probably the most in tune with their child's, right? And
Mm-hmm.
uh like as I've done my own journey with my own like past and how I was parented, I've done a lot of research and reading, and I've like surrounded myself with like scholars and people who are extremely smart. And like the best piece of advice that I've ever received is just delight in your child, delight in
Yes.
them, and it's like, oh,
Yep.
that's so easy. So that was the number one thing that I thought of, is that I wish I knew how easy it was, or how I should have just trusted my instinct that like my effort, like I've told this story before, but I think it makes sense in the context of this discussion. But I remember going to like a mom group where everyone made it clear that like we're practicing attachment parenting, and it literally, that phrase had not even crossed my like ether, like I had no idea what that
Mm-hmm.
was.
Yeah.
And when I remember showing up there and I felt really confident and just so in love with my baby and having a great postpartum experience. And it wasn't until someone told me, hey, you might not be doing this right, that I had even considered that possibility. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
like what a sadness that we continue to do this to new parents.
Well, it's so funny because you said that in the beginning. You were saying something about yeah, just being online. And I'm like, when I was pregnant and about to give birth with my first son, like he was born in 2010. And I really didn't like, I wasn't exposed to a lot of like the jargon or like even mommy sort of like groups or anything that I had like, I wasn't aspiring to anything, It was just like, I knew what I knew. My reality was my reality. My baby was like the baby I wanted so badly, and that's it.
Mhm.
Like, and then only, yeah, like when and I actually got off Facebook for a while when I was pregnant
Mhm.
with him because I just like wanted good vibes only.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
even then, at its like still infancy, there was already some like association with how negatively Facebook was affecting me. Then
Yeah.
my experience with my daughter, who was born in 2018, like I was exposed to it all. And I had so many added
Mhm.
anxieties over these
Mhm.
like groups I was joining, like
Mhm.
August 2018 baby, like whatever that it was to like connect with
Mm.
somebody.
Mhm.
A lot of my friends were like done having kids. And so it was just like kind of me. And I don't know. It was just like it was a different age, Like there's the information overload and just like the subgroups and things like that. Like that is
Mhm.
so damaging, and it's just
Mhm.
like what instinct you have is the reality, and
Mhm.
check in with smarter people than you, right? Like not
I know.
not Facebook people, to
I
put it
love
in
that.
simple terms. But
That's a great little tip. I wanted to
tit,
say
well,
tidbit. Tit. I said tit, but I wanted to say tidbit, and then I changed halfway through the word coming out of my mouth to tip, and then it just came tit. So that's a great
that's
tit. One tit only.
I feel like
No,
we're
but
still on our girls' vacation.
yeah, woo!
Martha, you
No,
remember?
but like I think that's such a great piece of advice. It's like be careful what content you are absorbing. And I know that like my job, I help people sleep independently, but I everything I post, I'm so aware of like, are my words making a mom who doesn't feel this feel like crap in any way? And I would rather do anything but that, like literally
Right.
anything. Honestly, it would just like destroy me. And there are some great Facebook mom groups. There are some toxic mom groups. And if
Yeah.
anything that you're reading doesn't lift you up and make you feel really great, you need to kick it to the can.
Yeah.
I
When
want
all
to.
of your healthcare providers tell you to get off the Facebook groups, which was my case. Get
Well, that's like
off.
I tell this story to my clients. I don't know if I've said it on the podcast, but um, I'm going to share two things. But I was gifted this book, and I won't mention the name because I don't want anyone to seek it out. But I was gifted this book, and it was like all about all these things, new baby, do this, do that, do that. And I was like, thank you so much. This is so exciting. And so I'm jumping into the book. And the first thing it tells me is that if your baby doesn't breastfeed for longer than 20 minutes at a time, they eventually will be failure to thrive, and they will stop eating, and your breast milk supply will tank. And so I, as a brand new parent, was like terrified of this. And, the
Is
one
that what
thing,
happened there with the
yeah, well,
situation?
okay, this is so funny. So I go to the doctor, I book an appointment, and I sort of like be like, I want to do a weight check. I want to make sure she's eating. Like, I read this book, and I go to the doctor, and she's like, okay, let's just do a quick weight check. And she's like, okay, so
Did
when
she
he's
eat another
six,
baby?
yeah, I know. She's like, when he's 6 weeks old and 16 pounds, um, that's absurd. And you're this whole thing is so absurd. She was so lovely. This
Oh
is
my gosh.
I
Yeah.
have a great doctor here, but I really like I don't miss my doctor. I wish I could have her here. She was just so patient with literally every thought that I ever
Yeah.
had. Um, but she was just like, if it doesn't land for you, stop reading it. Like, you have to
Yeah.
like honor your intuition and know. And you didn't even think about it until you read that. And I was like, that's
Right.
true. And
Yeah.
like my kids
Also,
continued, both of them.
please open your eyes and look
I,
at your child.
my kids like, I can't breathe because of my face
Like, I'm not
rolls.
sure
And
there's
I'm
enough
like,
skin. I'm not sure I was born with enough skin on my body to contain all this goodness.
but there is something, I put myself in that brain all the time. There's something in that newborn brain, mom, that's
Yep.
like, make sure you feed the baby, whether it's formula or breast milk, feed the baby,
Yep.
feed the baby.
Yep.
That's our job. We have to keep feeding the baby. So
Yep.
if someone gives you any signal that you're not feeding the baby, or it's like, I think it's actually primal, because it was so
Yeah.
stupid. I feel like I have a totally different brain. Those are totally two different people. But at the time, I really believed it. So I go to I go to the doctor, but like the joke is like my kids never ate longer than 5 minutes, both of them. They were both absurdly large, and I had a crazy breast milk supply, and it was nothing. But that was
Yeah.
me, and that was like the differentiator, right? I'm thinking of like, okay, so now I want to share my other piece of advice. So should I give a sleep tip, or should I give the time that like that thing
Let's listen
happened
to the
with
crowd.
Winnie?
What are they saying?
I know. Guys, what do you think? Okay. So there's that. Then I want to think about, okay, because you're listening to this podcast today because your baby isn't sleeping. Your newborn baby isn't sleeping. So we should absolutely talk about that. Number one, I do uh, I'm like always on the fence about like the content that I produce, because I don't want it to be like, you need this because you're lacking. But people ask me all the time, so I make it. But I made a newborn masterclass with a full like 12-page PDF guide and like an hour-long Q&A that I recorded and put on the website, and people really like it and they found
Yeah.
it helpful. But
So
the
good.
whole like content piece and the thing around it was that there sometimes isn't a lot that you can do with your newborn, and it's not your fault. That is like, I had
There's
these
nothing you
two,
can do with it.
there's nothing, and you were such a good example. Like, your baby had colic
Yeah, my
and you did
second
all the
one, and
things. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like, and I hated when people said, like, "Oh, it must be just like, you must be stressed. Colic is not a thing." It's like, well, it's not a
Hmm.
thing, except for it's a
Hmm.
thing for me, and I'm actually not
Hmm.
that stressed. Like, my husband
Hmm.
took all this time off. Like, our
Hmm.
relationship was good. I had a wonderful pregnancy. I had a
Yeah.
wonderful C-section birth experience.
Yep.
It was fine. Like nothing
Yep.
really was wrong. And so I was resentful of people saying that it wasn't a real thing. And I did try all the things. And
Mhm.
then like magically, honestly, at 3 months, he stopped crying. And then he was
Mhm.
just like perfect and normal and slept.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
actually, because he was such a fussy and hard to soothe baby, impossible to soothe, like I don't know, the bond there became stronger with dad because it was like Clayton's job
Mm.
to take over. As soon as he got home, and he did take that baby, and he did tell me to go lay down or go
Mhm.
do like, and actually I was like, some of the things I want to do are what I consider self-care, but they might be
Yeah.
not for everyone. But it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I just did a bunch of things that I wanted to do that were on my list, but I made sure to rest. And
Mhm.
like it gave him that time to experience the horribleness of the baby, and be able to like also understand my experience that I was going through the day. But also because William was so bad, and we talk about this openly in our, because he just then turned out to be like the most perfect little kid.
It's the most ironic thing of the 2000s,
Yes.
like that we can say this because he's the chillest, coolest
The
child.
chillest, easiest. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so is that I was just like, I had to put him down because there's so many frustrating times where I was just like, had dark thoughts, wasn't
Mhm.
arrested enough, or was just so
Mhm.
stressed all the time. And I had a toddler to take care of, so
Mhm.
William had to go down, like in a safe space, obviously by himself for a
Mhm.
while, and his room is always in his crib. And he just like started falling asleep like a bunch of times. Like my friends would come over, I'm like, I just need to like say hello to my friends, put him down for a second, come back up to in 10 minutes, he's sleeping. So it was
Mhm.
like in that moment I realized that it was like, oh, maybe he just like also wanted to be not touched so much. Like maybe he wanted to
Mhm.
just kick his little feet by himself for a while. It's like
Mhm.
it's also so important to just give them that opportunity to figure out
Mhm.
things for themselves, even if it's 5 minutes, even if it's 2 minutes, if it's 10 minutes. Like that was what I needed for my mental health, is that 10 minutes, to walk away,
It's
greet a friend.
That was going to be my next piece of advice. This is why our brains are so like in sync, because the best piece of advice I got from a friend was put your baby down to sleep when they are happy and just living their best life.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then the thing is like, it's okay to walk away if they're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like you feel so attached to the baby. Like
Yeah.
I remember the first night we put Winnie upstairs for a bedtime and then I walked downstairs. I was like, "Oh, she's all the way up there. Is she okay?" But she is
Yes.
okay. They are okay. They're totally fine. Um the when people talk about how I established good sleep habits with my kids, it was about I just kept practicing. I swaddled them and I put them down at around like a 45 to 90-minute wake window depending on their
Mhm.
age, and then I put them down before they were crying or really overtired, and I just kept trying, and sometimes that worked and sometimes that didn't, and I didn't really put a lot of pressure on myself. Like
Mhm.
I think that we know too much in this generation. Like I
Yeah.
eventually looked up the information. I looked up about wake windows. I read everything about baby sleep, but I also like for me at that time it didn't translate into a certain pressure. I never felt like maybe it's because I read so much about baby sleep, it normalized what they were doing, right? And I
That's
think that
so true.
sometimes they'll say like my clients will be like, well, my friend's baby sleeps 8 hours, or everyone says, why doesn't your baby sleep? Like aren't baby this is our sleepy time? It's like, well, it's a sleepy time for some, but it's definitely not for others. And I would say most newborns struggle with sleep
Yeah. Yeah.
for a long
Yeah.
time. And there are no such things as bad habits. Everything can be reversed when you want it. So if
Yeah.
you're doing something
Exactly.
that someone's like, you shouldn't do that, they're going to want that forever. Well,
You're
who
just
cares?
surviving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you can be like, you know what? We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It like we'll
Totally.
change that when we want to change that.
Mhm.
Um okay, this might be like kind of dark, but I think that we're doing a PSA by bringing this up. Has nothing to do
We
with
go
baby
there.
sleep. We're going to
We
go
go there.
there. Listen closely. Everybody has a story about dropping their baby or their baby falling. There you go.
We just happened to be on the phone for yours.
Everyone, and nobody tells it.
Yeah.
Nobody walks around because it's so shameful when it happens. I've never been so sad in my life when it did happen. Honestly, I don't think I've ever been so sad. It was, but then you call a friend to be like, hey, this is what I did. And everyone opens up. And some parents have 10 falling baby stories. And you're
I have one for every baby. Actually, maybe not Charlotte, because
you learned.
She figured it out. But I'm like, she fell for sure. But I don't remember specifically for her. But for like the first, but the second, I'm like, you think I would have learned? Think I would have known that? But yeah, he tricked me with being chill. He's like, I don't even move. I'm just
fine.
laying
Watch
here.
this.
I'm like, exactly. And then he's like, off the bed.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
No,
and
it's
please
not.
don't.
Not in the moment.
It isn't. And like when it happened to me, I was pumping. Winnie was right in front of me on like my rocker footstool. I put her down. I'm talking to Liza. This is like a 2-week-old baby. She doesn't move. She just lays there. She went down right in front of me. Like I watched it happen, but I couldn't react fast enough. I'm on the phone with Liza. And I'm like, I have to take her to the hospital. And Liza was like, girl, she's okay. She's okay. And then you just stopped. You go, you know what?
Yeah.
You have to do this. You have to go to the hospital and you have to know that she's okay. So just go. And I did. And she was okay. And the nurse was like, it's funny. So this is why I say it's like not funny. I put Winnie on the like examination table and then I turned around to do something. And the nurse, I'll never forget this. She goes, right there. You have your hand on this baby at all times when they are up on something high. You want to get something in your diaper bag? You have a hand on your baby. And I was like, oh. So it is a thing. I learned, Nora did fall, but not with me. She would like do stuff. Like Nora's tricky. Nora's a silent. She's like, I'm just here.
Yeah.
And then she goes and does stuff. I know. But I just wanted to say that. Like, I don't want everyone to drop their baby, but I think it's way more common than you think. I cried for a full day. And then I realized everyone has a story. Literally everyone I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's okay.
100%. I have like a couple for each kid. I feel like, one of our kids like fell down the stairs and then we like never let him walk on the stairs again because we were so traumatized. And then the teachers had to bring it up to us, like wondering if they're like, do you live in a bungalow? Or like, no, we're just freaks with stairs. That's all.
How we are is normal. You're not normal.
He would like bum scoot down the stairs to go to the library at school.
And they're like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Well, they have to flag that, right? For like certain disorders. So
like developmentally, yeah, totally.
Yes, yeah. They're like, he's not really walking up the stairs. Like, yeah, because we don't let him. That's why. We know he's 3. Move on.
When he's at home, he's in a bubble suit. That's also normal, right?
Yeah.
All right, Liza, we're at 20 minutes, which means we're getting into that crap nap zone. I think like I feel good about what we covered. Did we miss anything?
I don't think so. I feel like I shared a little too much, but oh well, that's me.
Oh, I don't think anything that you shared. I think I feel like this is like the episode I want to share with everyone today. I'm really glad that we did this. Yeah, it was really, really good.
If you do want to chat, because I love to talk, call me on a discovery call. People are like, we're going over 15 minutes. I'm like, it's okay. Stay, pull up a chair, stay a while.
Yeah, it's like consultations are at an all-time high. And they're like, we know that she's not the sleep consultant, but is there any way to work her into this somehow? That's a good point. We want to normalize newborn sleep. It's going to be a little bit tough. Check out the Newborn Masterclass. We also do one-on-one work and mentoring over your entire newborn experience. And people can find it really helpful. Maybe you don't have that mom friend. Maybe you're the first person to have kids, or maybe you have a lot of support and you want someone to text. All of our consultants work with newborns. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. And you can, if you want to work directly with me, you always book a call with Liza. Otherwise, we have an amazing team now with 2 registered social workers. So if you have
What?
coverage that covers a social worker, we can help you there too. And more things to come that are very exciting. I don't know when this is going to be polished, so I'm not going to say things, but we have so many more offerings coming your way very soon.
So
In
exciting.
the meantime, find us on Instagram at Baby's Best Sleep. You can find Liza at BBS_LIZA. And find us online at babysbestsleep.com. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Bye.